Yes. Make the most out of the time. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. We have a very good program here this morning, so I'm going to ask if you could please quiet down, get your food, take your seats, because we're going to Egypt this morning. So please, everyone, take a seat. So good morning, and it's so nice to see all of you here today. And we're going to go back to Egypt for me to share a few more of my adventures in Egypt and to give you some updates. And then we'll be turning over the program to our very special guest, Amani Hanafi, who is the CEO and founder of Reading on the Pitch. And you're really going to be interested in what she has to say. So last April, when I gave my first talk, I told you about the first ever St. Andrew's summer program, and that it was my desire to see that the first annual became the second annual. So thanks to generous donation of 2 St. Mark's members, the first has become the second annual summer program, which this year was called Curious Summer Camp. And it's very thrilling for these kids. And unfortunately, I was sent videos of them in real time, telling me how excited they were to be there. And they did like little interviews with the kids. And one little girl was asked what she learned. And she said, I learned that sometimes a joke is not a joke to someone else. So you need to think before you talk. And I thought that was very good advice. Another video expressed thanks. And I interpret that thanks to St. Mark's and its members who graciously donated so they could go to the camp, which was a farm about an hour outside of Cairo. And the kids stayed overnight for 2 or 3 nights. I just received 2,000 photos last night. I'm not going to show you all of them, but I could see the joy on their faces and the experiences they were having, which I think in many cases was the first time ever. So, as with last year's program, the days were divided up into groups in which they had discussions, and then they would engage in a lot of games and play and soccer, of course. Everyone plays soccer. This shows their jubilation in what they were doing.
You're cooking down.
I'm going the wrong way.
You cook down.
So I'm just going to scroll through a few pictures so that you can get a sense of what the activities the kids were involved in at the farm. Those are the little ones. They love to give the peace sign. Most of the photographs, everyone's giving peace. Now, the farm has a swimming pool, and I suspect for many, if not most, or if all, it was the first time they ever had been in a swimming pool. And under the hot Cairo sun, being able to take a dip in a cool pool is quite an extraordinary experience for them. Cannonball. And since it is a farm, they had animals on the farm. That looks like an ostrich to me, but it wasn't verified. The obligatory group photo. And you can see Pastor Becca in the middle of it. She's blowing a kiss. And I included this picture just because I think they're adorable kids. Beautiful. So one of the many things I did while I was at St. Andrews in Cairo, people started asking, can I come and talk with you? And it was extraordinary, and it reminded me of a quote that I had read from Joseph Campbell, which said, the privilege of a lifetime is to be who you are. And as I sat listening to their stories of hardship, of trauma, incredible stories, I thought about this was my privilege of a lifetime to sit with them and have them share their stories with me. I think often, well, we all know we play various roles. Either we're playing to the expectation of our community, our professional life, our church life, our family life. But to have the privilege of just sitting and being who you are was really the most wonderful experience of my lifetime. We didn't know each other. We had no expectations. We were just there. And the sharing just poured out of them. And many of them are still my friends, and I'm in communication with them and ask permission if I can share some of their stories with you. Is Gamal. He's from Sudan, and at a young age, his family moved to Saudi Arabia. His father was a very successful and prosperous businessman. He was also a very generous man, Gamal told me. And so when he passed away at a fairly young age, he left the family destitute. Gamal had to take charge as the head of the household. And in his desperation to provide support for them, he took risks. One risk was trying to cross the border without the necessary papers. He was immediately put into a Saudi prison where he was tortured for about a year and also heavily medicated. One brave doctor took an interest in him, and he went to the press with his story. I can't imagine the bravery it took for this doctor to do that. But as a result, he got them all out of prison. He finally made his way to Egypt, but he still, to this day, suffers the physical injuries as a result of his torture, and definitely the emotional pain and injury. He's a very emotional man and can cry very easily. And but he's also a very dear person, and I'm amazed that when I hear these stories and I look at the person, that they're so whole and see their resilience in what they do. did it wrong again, Peter. This is Mohammed. Mohammed is from Syria. And he was there living under the Assad regime. And it was a brutal dictatorship in Syria. And he said he wasn't very political. But one night at the end of Ramadan, he was going to see his family for the celebration. He heard gunfire and took cover. And when he came out, he saw a man bleeding to death in the streets. So just instinctually, he picked up the man, put him in the car, went to a hospital. And for this act of humanitarianism, he was arrested as a dissenter. He also was imprisoned and tortured. And during that time, he underwent quite a huge crisis of faith. He was raised a Muslim, identifies as a Muslim up until that point, because he said he would pray to God that why are these people torturing us and why are these innocent people in prison? And he never got an answer. So he came to me with his faith struggles, and then I heard his stories. And he's a remarkable, incredible man. He's very nice looking, very intelligent, works at StARS. So that's Mohammed. He sends you his greetings. Oh, my favorite cadet. Cadet is the one who, when his father passed away, the uncle was abusing the mother and the kids. This mother, Cadet, was just a baby, and she took the 3 toddlers and the baby walked and crossed the Nile swimming. And while in the Nile, Cadet told me she prayed to God that he would take her and them. But fortunately, that prayer was not answered. And Cadet was, I told you, he had been admitted to Chadron College in Nebraska. And we were going through the visa process in January, but then, of course, everything ended for foreign students in January, especially those on the list that tend to be Muslim or African countries. And yesterday I just read how for the H-1 visas, those are the specialized visas for people with certain talents. It now costs $100,000 to obtain one of those visas, which I think is very unfortunate given that we are suffering. The United States is losing out on all that talent from India, from Africa, from across the globe. But anyway, Cadet has quite the leadership skills, and we now are trying to get him to Australia, where they're a little more friendly to immigrants and accepting more, or Canada or England. This is Adhar. I told you about him. He was born in South Sudan in a rural farming family. And he was discouraged or forbidden to go to school. And but finally, when he was 14, he prevailed and got himself in school, very intelligent, graduated from high school, went to Egypt and studied at the Cairo University. And a few months ago, he was admitted into the London School of Economics, which is an incredible feat. And even a greater miracle, we were able to find someone to sponsor him. And so we were all good, and then the visa application. So what's required these days is that you have a chest x-ray, and his x-ray came out as something suspicious, looking like tuberculosis. So he's been going through, then he had to have a genetic test, and I talked to him yesterday morning, And he's passed 3 tests, but now he needs 2 more to be cleared. But fortunately, the London School of Economics has agreed to, advance his admission into fall 2026. Disappointing, but this is a young man of faith who accepts that there will be bumps in his journey, and he does it with grace and beauty. So we're going on to a lighter note, and that's Christmas at St. Andrews. Pastor Becca was there when I was there at that time, and we invited everyone from StARS to come and help decorate the Christmas tree. This was interesting because most of them were Muslims, and I had never decorated a Christmas tree. And it was great fun. And Pastor Becca thought it would be good to sing Christmas carols. She sat down on the piano, began to play, and I was to lead them in the carols. But I realized they didn't know any of the carols, and I think I sang 2, and we forgot about that one. But, oh, that's Amani. She's from Chad, a lovely woman who works in the education department at StARS. And we worked on an application for her to attend UCSF chaplaincy program. But again, opportunities are cut off now. Bilal, he's like the office administrator at StARS. He must know about hook 'em horns from the University of Texas. I even decorated. Obligatory group photo. This woman you may recognize as Pastor Becca's mother, who very bravely came to Egypt and stayed for 2 months. She brought candy. Went crazy here.
Try holding down again.
So before Christmas Eve, I went out and bought hats and glasses and things for the little kids. And on Christmas Eve, everyone was invited to attend the service, and it was a full house. Normally on Friday mornings, there might be 10 or 20 people. It was hot. And Pastor Becca asked me to give the sermon, which it was always challenging to come up with sermons to considering the audience. And so I was speaking to a predominantly Muslim congregation. Not only Muslim, but people who had suffered a lot in the past year, from the downfall of the Assad regime to the wars in Sudan and South Sudan, to Gaza and the bombing and genocide going on. But I chose the theme of love. That love was born at Christmas, based on Christina Rossetti's poem. She was an Anglican poet, and that hymn, many of you probably have sung it. And it's a beautiful poem. I was especially challenged because my brother and sister-in-law and one of our nieces was there in the audience. I kept on looking over at my brother and thinking, what are you thinking? He graciously reported to the rest of the family that I had given the sermon of the century. To show this. Is Pam here? There she is. Pam was over in Egypt and she assisted in the services while she was there. I think you were a lector and probably assisted in communion. So I wanted to share this photo. There she is. I wanted to leave you with a happy picture. This is Ahmed Joda. He's 3 there, he now is 4. And he came to the Christmas service and there was a big dinner afterwards. He was quite bored with the service, but he was thrilled to get his hat. And so I am now referred to by Ahmed Joda as daughter of Santa. That thing. Anyway, I am going to turn this over to our very special guest, Amani Hanafi. She is the founder and owner or CEO of Reading on the Pitch, which is a nonprofit in Cairo, in which she is teaching reading through football to refugees. And she has many interesting videos and stories. So let's all welcome Amani Hanafi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Probably won't stand behind the podium because I'm so small. But I want to start off by saying thank you so much to Kathryn and to St. Mark's for having me here today. I actually know Pastor Becca through my sister-in-law's sister. So it's a very, it's a different connection, but that's how I got introduced to Kathryn. So I'm very happy to be able to speak with you today. And so again, thanks to St. Mark's, thanks to Kathryn, thank you to Peter for setting this all up. So I appreciate it. I am the founder and CEO of Reading on the Pitch. It is actually based here in San Francisco. It's based in the Haight-Ashbury, and I have been working internationally since 2018 in this work. During COVID, I had to shut down, but then I reopened a couple of years ago. And we're currently running programs in Cairo, Egypt with children from South Sudan, from Gaza, from Egypt, and from neighboring countries. So it's any child, we work with any child that is not receiving educational equity. And the majority of the children that we are working with are extremely traumatized. So we are working to support them in their healing process. So I am going to start off with a video. We can start off with that first video. And then we'll give you an overview of what we do, and then I'll go through a breakdown to show you more.
Reported by UNICEF, by the end of 2024, 52 million children living in conflict-affected countries were out of school.
Reading on the Pitch's mission is to advocate for children and the communities that they're a part of. Our vision is for a world where all people are equipped with the tools necessary to take agency over their own lives. Reading on the Pitch uses the universal language of football to teach both conversation and reading in the language of the country that the child is living in or migrating to. We use sport for protection. We provide safe places for the children to play. We teach breathing exercises and emotional regulation on the pitch in order to help with trauma healing, and we educate on the pitch. Trauma activates the fight, flight, fawn response, and breathing, it interrupts that trauma response. Play also regulates the nervous system. Play in itself lets us let go of what our body is holding within us. Teaching a child to calm their body is teaching a child to take control over their bodies and take agency over their own lives. These children are coming from conflict zones. They're out of control within themselves. So our job is to bring them back to the present moment, to calm their nervous systems and bring them into a space of safety and play. During our Gaza program, I noticed a 12-year-old boy sitting on a staircase, not playing with the other children. I went to sit next to him to find out what was going on, and he shared with me how he had left a lot of his friends and family back in Gaza. He told me how he'd seen things and experienced things that I could only imagine. I told him that it was 100% okay that he was feeling anger and sadness, but let's come back to where we are now. So together we sat on the stairs and we took deep breaths together, and I encouraged him to go play with his friends. He took the deep breaths, he got up, and then he went and he played a match. And I saw immediately, once he started running, once he was in his present moment, and once he was playing, he came back into his body and he let go of the stress that was within him. With the communities that we collaborate with, we build programs. We provide safe spaces for the children to play. We provide equipment and resources. We provide methodology and curriculum. We hire staff. We train the staff in both the curriculum and healing trauma practices like breathing.
We are currently collaborating with 3 organizations in Cairo, Egypt. In collaboration with Pyramids of Hope, which works with children from Gaza, we are running programs with 100 children from ages 6 to 12 years old. We are also working alongside Youth Support Volunteer Organization, where we currently have over 200 players ages 4 to 22 years from South Sudan and Sudan. In partnership with Auladi Orphanage, which houses 300 Egyptian orphans, Reading on the Pitch runs programming for 150 children ages 4 to 13 years. And we go beyond the pitch. We hold food drives, clothing drives, and shoe drives. We take our children out into nature, teaching them how to come to their present moment and how to heal through nature. We take them on field trips to pack food boxes, to support their communities, and to teach them how they can be of service to others. To sustain our programs, provide more training for our staff, and support our communities beyond the pitch, we invite you to contribute financially and help advocate for these children by spreading the word.
Together, we can provide these children and their communities with the tools necessary to take agency over their own lives. Thank you.
So you're already using.
So I have so much information in my mind, I want to make sure to get everything to you. But to begin, so all of our programs currently running are in Cairo. We actually started in San Francisco in the Tenderloin in the rec center, working with children that had just arrived from Yemen. So our mission and our vision is to reach children that do not have access to education and support them in their trauma healing. I'm gonna give you a couple of statistics. And let me see if I can use this myself. So can you make that? All right, so go ahead, press, okay. So currently, thank you. So currently there are 52 million children from conflict-affected countries that are out of school. That's an enormous amount of children. The Palestinian Authority, there was a slide before the. Yeah, can you pause that? Okay. So there are currently 4 million Sudanese people in Egypt. 40% of them are under the age of 18, so there are 1.6 million children, and 864,000 of those children are out of school. The reason that they're out of school is that they are waiting for paperwork to gain access to education. So that can take 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Kathryn talked about how much the system, it's a long process. So these children are at home. I have kids that I work with that have not left the house in 6 months. They're extremely depressed. And I'll talk more about how this work gets them out, gets them moving, and helps them with their mental and physical health. Shall I press? All right, so according to the Palestinian Authority, there are 115,000 Gazans that enter Egypt. This is not a correct statistic. There are way more that are present. The Gazan children, unknown. That is a true statistic. It is unknown. I know of hundreds of children who are currently waiting to go to school, figuring out whether they're going to stay in Egypt, whether they're going to move to another country. So these children are facing they're facing hardships because they don't have school. So what they depend on is informal education. And that's what we provide in reading on the pitch. And I'm going to show you how we do that. Continue forward. All right, so how do you educate? This is an example. So the coach, she's giving commands. Says up. Turn around. So in that example, you see that that's how we're teaching them language on the football pitch. And we don't just teach English. We also teach Arabic. I worked in Germany, in refugee camps in Germany. I trained German coaches, and they were teaching children in German. So you have people coming from Syria, they're waiting in a German refugee camp, and they're waiting to integrate into society. So what do we do while they're there? We teach them German. In Mexico, I worked in Mexico on the border, and there were tents right on the Mexican border with Texas. I worked with children there. I trained a man who was living in the tents, and he taught English to those children so that when they arrived here in the United States, that they had an easier time integrating in society. And that's one of the most important things about this organization. What we do is we partner with nonprofit organizations on the ground in the spaces that we work in, and we train those people in those nonprofits. And then we build a staff from their community, and then we fund the program so that it can continue. So then it's sustainable, and not only are the children benefiting, also the community itself.
I'm gonna leave it
They get
11
jobs.
at 10:45, okay?
Coaches, coordinators, social workers that are working with these children.
Earlier.
So here's another example. This is spelling. This is the English program. She asked them to spell the word safe. And we do a methodology called total physical response, which my background is in education. That's what I have a master's in education. And total physical response is action-based learning. So if I don't speak the same language as you, if you're an English speaker and I speak Arabic, or let's reverse that. If I'm an English speaker and you're speaking Arabic, and I wanna teach you the word sit, I can show you through action. I can tell you to sit, right? You'll understand me. If I go like this, I say stop. You'll understand me. So you learn through action-based methodology. It says one of these words. They're reading the words. Who says letter E? So who chooses letter E? So again, this is about, these children are literally not going to school. So we're giving them an opportunity to have access to education. And we do it anywhere. It doesn't, the greatest thing about this program is you can do it here. You can do it outside. You can do it in a garden. It doesn't have to be a football pitch. And I've adapted this to baseball, basketball. It can be different sports. I've adapted this to math. You can teach math on the pitch. So there's so many things that you can do with this. This is our Gaza program. So these kids also, it's the same, and that's Coach Mohammed speaking in the background, he's from Gaza. And all of these people have come since October 7th. This is our orphanage program. They are learning a word, dog. Dog means bear. So then, but. And that dog, what does dog mean? Bear. What does dog mean? Bear, look. So she teaches, the little girl she's teaching, that's her Ben, she teaches. And then they run to the cones. Said head, back, go. Then after that, they have a lull. Then they have, they do, really be in the next video. They're having fun. So now they're introduced to the goal. So they do the drill with the ball. So they're learning, not only are they learning language, they're also active, moving, physical. It's really good for their mental health. Okay, so breathing. This is another thing that I've incorporated into the program is breathing exercises. I myself, sometimes I will get angry and up and down my emotions. How do I come back to taking care of myself? Breath. I take a breath, I take a deep breath, and I come back to where I am. I try to get out of my mind and I come back to the present moment. So what we're trying to do with these children is we are trying to create a habit for them. So every single program, we start off with breathing exercises so that it's just something that is natural for them. So they don't even have to, because if I was younger and I learned that, then I wouldn't have to be teaching myself as an adult. I would already be habitually breathing, right? Every time I'm upset or every time in any context. But that's the idea, is to create habit. So this is a coach in the orphanage. He's talking with some of the boys. And he's speaking in Arabic. He's saying, take 10 seconds. And he's saying, before hitting someone, take a breath. Don't hit, breathe, think. What am I gonna do? This is the Gaza program. This coach, he himself started learning after we started doing it together. He started learning different breathing exercises. This I didn't, he taught me. I said this would work, so he now had learned this new technique, goes down, up, and he breathes with it. And you saw in the video, those 3 children who said, we take a breath to calm down when we're angry. That means they're hearing us. That's what that means. That's what it shows. They're understanding what we're telling them. And that's the first step, right? Is their awareness. This is the orphanage. Or she. This is our preschool program in orphanage. This is the youth program. And with the older boys specifically, when we started doing this, they thought it was funny. But now they're starting to actually appreciate it. But we're gonna keep, one of the things I need support with is doing even more trainings with the coaches of the importance of this. She's talking about posture. Okay, play. Play is another tool for healing. When a child goes out onto the pitch, they're getting their present moment and they're coming back to theory. I'm not sure if you are, I'm pretty sure a lot of you are familiar with the word sumud because of the sumud flotilla. Sumud means resilience. So there are different ways of resilience, and sumud is about non-violent resistance. So these are forms of non-violent resistance. Education, to move forward no matter what. Breathing, healing is a form of resistance. Play is a form of resistance. These are all forms of resistance in order to continue moving forward no matter what. And these kids, they're coming from conflict areas, war zones, genocides. They've seen unimaginable things that we can't. I mean, maybe some people have experienced that so they can understand, but I know that I haven't been in a genocide before. So I have no idea what these kids are carrying with them, but you can feel it and see it in their behavior. And these are ways in order to bring them back to where they are and to support them in healing. And if I could go into Gaza, I would, and I would do these programs with them in the camps, because I've worked in camps in Greece, in Germany, in Turkey, and this work is incredible because you go into the space, you teach them, you give them access to education, and then you help them to heal, and then you help them to have joy. And it's not just the children that have joy, it's the families too. Because I worked in Greece in an abandoned building with 250 people from Afghanistan, Syria, from Palestine, from all over. And there were so many things that happened that I didn't expect to happen. And one of them was that the parents were all in very deep depressions. And these children used to wake each other up because I would go 5 days a week as if it was a school. And they would line themselves up at the door waiting to play. And they did it without their parents. Their parents were extremely depressed. They were living in rooms, 3 families, carpets on the floor, carpets hanging between them, 5 people in a family at a time, don't know when they're gonna get their next meal. So of course they're depressed. But then, as the kids started playing, the families would start hanging out, because it was an abandoned school, they'd hang out the side, looking down at their children playing, and it just shifted. It shifted the whole atmosphere of the space. Joy does things we all know what joy can do. So this football, it's a universal language. And I connected it to, I'm passionate about education, but I also play soccer. So for me, this was like huge. It's like I get to go and do all these things that I love and share it with people and share it with these children, and they love it too, right? these kids with different languages, you can bring people together because football is a common language. It's a universal language that people understand. So let's continue forward. So these are just some clips and I'll move forward. Oh, yeah. So I have about 4 minutes. I have so much to say though. So let me jump forward to the impact stories.